Hey guys, Sean P here. Welcome to the market report for the Victoria Real Estate Board. In this video series, I do my best to take the jargon that us real estate agents and the media use to understand the real estate market and bring it to terms in a conversation that hopefully is useful to you as a consumer. I love shooting these, and I know that this won't answer every question there is for everyone. So if you have questions about the real estate market, when you're ready, reach out and you can use the links in the description to connect with me. Before I jump in, I have an exciting announcement that I have been working towards for several months now. I've recently partnered with Jane Johnson of the Briar Hill Group. Together, we bring almost 40 years of experience as top producers in real estate, and we're combining our resources, our experience, and our knowledge from selling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate together in order to provide better service to our clients. I couldn't be more excited about the group that I'm helping to build and surround myself with, and I can't wait to show you what it will look like in our service to you. Now, with that out of the way, let's jump into this market report. In these videos, what I do is I read through select parts of the market report and I discuss what it means. And I love doing these because it gives me the opportunity to really try to make sense of all this in a way that hopefully is easy for you to consume. And yet at the same time, I spent the past 3 months essentially saying that we're in a balanced market. That's a great market to shop because you have extra inventory, and it's a stable market to sell in because you can predict what your home will sell for. And yet I was doing some research over the past couple weeks, and I found that one of the most common things people are searching for on Google right now is whether or not home prices are dropping in Victoria. That's right. One of the most common search terms when you look for what people are typing in association with Victoria real estate is the Victoria real estate market dropping? So I thought that it would be fun to do our best to answer that question in today's episode. I'm going to read through the report like normal, and I'm going to give you an idea of what I think is actually happening in the market, and hopefully that will give you an idea of how you can best make your plans. Let's jump in. Okay, so to start out the report, we always focus on the number of sales. This is a really good indicator of the health of the market. And in June, we had a total of 661 properties which sold. Now, this is 6.2% lower than what we sold in June 2023. And it's 13.4% down from last month. Now, 13.4% doesn't surprise me because we typically will always sell more properties in May than in June. This just has to do with consumer behavior. People are taking care of their kids, getting out of school and graduations, and getting ready for summertime and enjoying the outdoors in June. And this does affect our real estate market in Canada. It's just natural that when people are distracted or unplugged, they're not going to be as available to purchase properties. And it really makes a big difference in the number of homes that sell. Sales of condominiums were down quite a bit, 16.5% from June 2023. And sales of single-family homes increased by 6.2% from June 2023. So this is interesting because we saw that last year, like when we compare June with June, we're down a total of 6.2%. But that 6.2% is a blend of single-family sales and condo sales. And what we've seen is that condos are down quite a bit and single-family homes were actually up. And that's where we get that blended balance of 6.2%. In reality, some parts of the market are favoring pretty well right now. They continue to say that June followed with normal seasonal trends. I talked about that a little bit. And they were saying there's more inventory, slightly fewer sales. And most buyers last month would have experienced a market with more choice and better ability to make decisions. At the end of the month, we had 3,460 active listings on the board. And at the end of June, and that represented an increase of 3.7% compared with May, and we're up 47.7% from what we had at the end of June last year. Now, we talked about this last month. Last month was very similar in terms of the total number or the total percentage increase from the year over year. Realistically, what this represents is consumer confidence on the seller side. People were scared to list their homes last month because there was nothing but bad media as house prices were still softening and interest rates were continuing to rise. So that is in line with what we'd expect. And an increase of inventory from May till June is also to be expected because, again, May, we saw a lot more buyer activity, and in June, things just typically slow down a little bit. We also look at pricing, okay? So in pricing, we use the home price index benchmark. Now, in a minute, I'm going to break this apart. I'm going to talk about what each sector's actual average price and sales look like, but the home price benchmark index is what they try to do is they try to create this imaginary average home. So as opposed to taking the averages of all the different types of properties that are selling, which is skewed by the fact that in some months you might have a couple really big sales, or in one month we might see a whole bunch of really low price condos get listed and sold because a new development or something came available with attractive prices. And so we try to take out the wild cards of the market and just give you a good idea of what's actually happening. And it's a very useful tool. So the home price benchmark for June 2023, that's last year, was 1,314,000. The same home in June 2024 decreased by 1.4% to 1,295,500. So that was a slight decrease. I usually think that if it's less than 2 or 3, maybe 5%, I consider that negligible, and it's just market fluctuation. It's just natural. It's not an indication of a bigger trend. The HPI benchmark for a condo in the Victoria Core, June 2023, was 567.3, while the benchmark value for the same condo, June 2024, increased by 0.1% to 567.9, down from the May value of 569.5. So basically, the Victoria Core market price has been essentially flat for condos, and the Victoria Core for home prices went down a tiny bit, but didn't really move very much. So where's all this conversation about our houses going down in value in Victoria? Why are people searching for this? What is it that people are trying to figure out? Well, I thought it might be smart to step outside of the HPI index benchmark index and instead look at actual average prices for properties. And I also thought it would be smart to look a little bit further than just Victoria. When people type things into Google, usually they type in the nearest major landmark. So people would more often, and there would be bigger search volume for our home prices dropping in Victoria than, for example, our home prices dropping in Crofton or Sydney. People will search for the bigger city and use that as a guide to what's happening locally, when in reality that might not be accurate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some numbers over what's happened over the past 3 months, and we're going to look at the greater Victoria area, and we're not looking at the benchmark. We're going to look at averages, and that represents the exact average that we had for sales and home prices over the last 3 months. Okay, so let's dig into this. And we're going to start with single family. So for single family homes, I'm going to look at April, May, and June, and we're going to compare each of these months with the previous year for the same month. So single family homes for sales, in April we saw plus 3.7, in May it was flat, and in June we saw plus 6.2%. So single family homes slightly up on sales. Over the past 3 months for single family homes, we saw minus 0.3% in terms of price in April, plus 2% in May, and plus 0.4% in June. We're flat on price for single family homes. So that seems very stable. Now let's look at condos. Sales for April, May, and June, year over year, 1.5% up in April, minus 5.2% in May, and minus 16.5% in June. Okay, so we saw it go from being slightly above to quite a bit under. And for condos in April, we saw price at minus 2.4% compared with the year earlier, minus 9% in May, and minus 12% in June. So why the disparity? Because a moment ago, I just said that the home price index for condos was flat. Well, the difference is that this takes into a wider geographic area. So it looks like condos might have something to be concerned with. They're not part of the core. When I say the core, I don't mean just actual Victoria. I mean downtown and Oak Bay and all those areas nearby. We include that. However, it's not going to include things like Langford, Sydney, Colwood, other areas outside of downtown. All right, well, that's interesting. Does that spell disaster? Well, not necessarily. I wouldn't say that this has been going on long enough to be a trend. I think that this is just something that we watch for now. Let's talk about townhomes. Okay, townhomes, we saw sales flat for April, plus 8.3 in May, and minus 10 in June. So it's all over the map. Price was plus 5.5% in April, minus 2% in May, and minus 5% in June. So what gives? This doesn't seem to create any kind of clear path. It's not a line, it's all over the place. Well, one thing that I think would be important to mention, and part of why we love the home price benchmark index, is sample size. One of the things that makes it really hard to understand these reports is if you don't have perspective, is that a lot of the time we're basing this on a relatively small set of data. For townhomes, we only saw about 85 transactions every month. For single family homes, the average a lot closer to 350. We saw anywhere from the low threes up to just about 400 transactions for single family homes. So the majority of our market's activity is in single family homes. Condos float in the low 200s, 200, 215, 208. We tend to see about that number of transactions for condos in the greater Victoria area every month. So with townhomes, part of this irregularity is just the fact that we have such a small sample size, about 80 to 90 transactions every single month. Back to condos, we do see generally what feels to be a bit of a trend where they're not selling for what they might have previously in the greater area. We're still seeing strength in the core, but I think, again, when people are searching on Google, what's happening with my home price, they're going to type the bigger city. They're not going to search our price is dropping in Brentwood Bay, because no one writes an article about that. Or it would be less common than Victoria, and you're going to just get better information from a larger source. Okay. So what's happening with condos? Well, condos are in a tricky moment. Traditionally, condos have been really attractive to investors, and investors are really slow on condos right now because of the fact that interest rates are higher. Investors are also really cautious with condos because of the allowed uses and the amount of controls that are being placed both by condos and by the province on what you're allowed to do with your property. So while a lot of investors previously would look at the condo market as a great source for inventory to Airbnb, they can't do that anymore. Simultaneously, they might have a building decide that they're going to put restrictions on what kind of rentals that they might be able to do, and that affects their ability to rent it out. So a lot of investors are moving away from condos, and they're trying to find either other locations to invest or other product. I think the other thing that really is affecting condos is just the fact that there's so much inventory. So when people are looking at what to purchase, they feel like they have more time, and for that reason, generally, we're seeing less sales, and the buyer sentiment might be that they're planning to be more cautious and take their time in negotiations. So, with all of this, our house price is dropping in Victoria. Is our real estate market going down? And I think the generalized answer, if I was to put it all together in one piece, is still no. We are in a very stable market. Some segments of our market are performing differently than others. And just like condos outside of the core might take a little bit longer or sell for a little bit less than they would have last year, there's also certain neighborhoods that are performing really well. Just last month, we had a sale where we took a property that really wasn't in the best location, but we marketed it really well, and we ended up selling it in less than a week. We had 5 offers, and we ended up with the highest bidder, a backup offer, and a backup on the backup offer. So what this all means is that there's no blanket statement like is the Victoria housing market going down that's going to actually help you plan your next move or your first purchase or whatever it is that you intend to do with real estate. What you need to do is you need to have someone, hopefully us or anyone that you trust, come and talk to you about your specific situation so that you can understand what's happening in your neighborhood, what's happening in the greater trend of the market, how it all fits together, and how you can take the best advantage of it. With that said, I'm going to sign off. I appreciate you watching this. I'm looking forward to the next one. Thanks for being here.